Tell us a little bit about who's Rania, the original Rania, not the Dr. Hamza.
I consider myself a very passionate lifelong learner. I find joy in learning and in teaching what I learned. It was not really a surprise that, to me at least, to continue in academia. So I was a very good student. I liked studying. So I'm not joking when I tell my kids I was very good student. I was, I would say, ranked very highly in high school when I was like a student, top 10. And I had very successful, I would say, school years, although I never liked school. I was very good at school because it was means for me to do something better. I always, I would say, hated the traditional learning approach and having, I would say, the instruction way of having children to sit in desks, and like it was kind of killing creativity.
Okay.
But I've always wanted to do good, to be able to make change. So this is one of the things that I've always wanted to do, to really make change in education, to inspire kids and to inspire especially women. I was very lucky that I had very supportive parents. I think I was having more. I have two brothers. I had more privilege than my two brothers, which is something that I would say it was not that common in my culture. But I enjoy learning, and I used to even take very good notes. Everyone in class would want to take my notes, and I would gather my colleagues and my friends, make them sit and instruct them.
Okay.
It's really funny now, but I used to sign my exams, Dr. Rania Hamza, Associate Professor, even way before I knew where life would take me. And I remember my professors would come and say, "You really need professional help." I was like, "No." I didn't even know that time what assistant was, associate, but I don't know. They will tell me why specifically. I was like, I don't know. I just like how it looks.
So do you want to be a professor or want to be a teacher? On your child? I'm just saying that this is...
No, I've never wanted to be like a school teacher. Not because of I didn't like. I just, as I grow, I realized that I really find more influence when I have kind of, I don't want to say older kids, but they're still kids. So teenagers from the age of like university education, post-secondary education. I think this is the moment where it actually shaped my life better. I started to see, especially I had the opportunity to go to the American University in Cairo, which had a very, I would say, liberal, interdisciplinary. It shaped my, I would say, career and my personality a lot. I liked and flourished this environment, and I see how it can actually make a difference. This is where I felt I can do something that can make a change.
So there is any inspiration behind that? Somebody inspired you, an event inspired you, or it was just a genetic thing that you born with that?
Well, I was living for, I would say, until my grade 9 with my grandfather.
Okay.
And my grandfather would always joke and tell me, when I tell like, I'm having an exam today, just please pray for me. And I was like, you're going to be a professor, and sometimes you're going to be a dean. And like, I would just joke. So although he was educated, but he just finished high school education, and he was not into academia by any means. But he had like this belief in me. And he was very supportive, and he would even come take me from school, and I would be waiting for him to pick me up to tell him how was my exam. So I think he was a big influence. Even when he passed, I would still remember him, and like I lived with him for a big, I would say, portion of my life. And he was the one that I actually dedicated my PhD dissertation to. So on my first page of my dissertation, it was dedicated. And that's actually where I carry Hamza, because that was his name.
Okay.
So this is where I kept the name Hamza as my family name. But that's actually my very immediate grandfather.
So I got a student during the early study and high school. And I know, because we are on from the same background from Egypt, so how it's important, the high school grades. Who was the first person that you told her or him about your grades in the high school? There is someone, oh, I want to really...
I actually got my grade from my Arabic teacher. I still like Arabic, and I like poetry.
Oh.
And I was very good in writing, and like one of the things that I enjoyed. So he called me and to tell me that I was actually one of the top. And so I kind of got my grade a bit earlier, a couple of days earlier. And I don't think it was really a celebration, rather than I was upset that I lost a few marks here and there. So I felt like I was like very upset that why did I lose these marks? And at the time, of course, it was a big deal for me. But now, of course, I look back and laugh, and I was like, how come?
Are you still having that kind of criticizing yourself for not excelling in your activity?
Yes, very critical person, definitely. Very harsh on. I like to challenge myself. This is how if I'm not challenged, I wouldn't be interested to do anything. So the challenge is what keeps me going.
You have kids?
Of course, yeah. You know that because we always chat about them. A big part of me is being a mother. And this is, I would say, I learned from being a mother too many things that I couldn't have learned other way around. So this is a big portion of me that I don't know if I'm the one who's raising them or the one that they're bringing me up, because I learned a lot of things with them, especially teenage and yeah.
So, but this is what I want to ask about. If you are like criticizing that much and harsh on yourself, you'd be the same thing with the kids. How they are tolerating?
I think that's a good question for them. They have their own personality, and they are very different in personalities compared to me. So
you have a boy and a girl.
I have my daughter. She's in grade 12, and my son is in grade 8. We have very different personalities, very different interests, and none of them wants to be engineer, for example. But I think they have their character of their own. Definitely, or maybe subconsciously, I influence them, but I try not to. But definitely, they have a big part in them that they want to please me as well. So they want to make me proud and.
Yes.
Yeah, but they are by no means looking to be exact copy of me. They have their own personalities, which I have to say I learned how to work with and accept, because the big thing as parents, especially when you come from a family that value education a lot and look for the highest levels of education, you can also kind of leave a little bit of room for children to explore different routes, especially if they are very different from what I've been pursuing myself.
We always know that it's a working mom is a challenge. Yeah. So how about a mom that is doing a graduate study? So how it's challenging to do a graduate study, especially the PhD. So how did you see that challenge, and how did you able to manage that, doing your graduate study or PhD while you are being a mom?
The hardest part was taking the decision. It took me so long, actually, to take the decision to start my PhD. I knew from whenever I finished my bachelor that this is something that I wanted to do, but I've always worried about taking the steps. Even my professors that would go on, I was like, oh, you're still here? You haven't gone? Because it's always kind of understood that the best way when you finish your education is to start to explore opportunities abroad to gain more knowledge and have more opportunities of education. And everybody was surprised that I stayed actually a long time. I started another master's after my first master, which I didn't finish because I decided that it might be better to move to Canada to do my PhD. But the decision itself, I don't think I can take credit. It was my husband who was actually pushing me to say, well, I just need this push.
Okay.
Because I was poor at that time, and I was very attached to my family and my parents and Egypt in general, and I would say I was very happy and in my comfort zone, so I needed this push to leave my comfort zone. So he gave me that push, and we decided to move to Canada.
Top it.
It was hard, but I have to say I was in a much better, I would say, situation compared to other. First of all, language was not a barrier for me, which was good. Culture was not a big barrier as well. It was fine because, and I have to say, being in an American and English-speaking university helped me a lot with that. But the hardest part, as you mentioned, was being a mother. When I moved, my son was less than 2 years, and my daughter was 6 years. Daycare was an issue, for example. So Calgary, as you know, is not really a transit city, so snow and cold. I'm not used to the weather. So I don't know where to put my child. So I remember I had to go every day for at least 2-3 hours one way each I was in the north. The first daycare for my son was way in the south, and it was a little bit of a struggle for the first few months. But they gave me the energy. I was like kind of, and then after some times I gained more resilience. I tried to manage my time better and seize every single moment to do work. So every kind of summer, I would send my kids for camps as much as possible and wrap up. I was very efficient in the lab.
I want to see getting rid of them for
Yes.
something.
No.
Not with this
But
one,
I really also wanted to make sure they are doing something that is working for them. And I started to gain more confidence in moving around. I started to drive and be more flexible in terms of kind of finding my way. So, when you're learning something new, it took me like maybe a few months, 6 months to a year to get the hang of it. And I had a very supportive supervisor. He was always encouraging me. And we would go all the time. He would visit us actually at home, and we would enjoy meals together. And he was very supportive. Like, I remember whenever I'm stressed, he was like, go cook good meal for your family. And I learned how to be efficient, especially in the lab. I work with biological system. It's very time consuming. People would not love it because of, wastewater is always associated with that.